going on in America now. My boy Trump just said that those pardons that Biden was giving out free willy-nilly, yeah, they null and void. Why would they be null and void? Because he didn't actually sign them. Word? Now, yesterday when we did a video, I posted this picture, obviously acknowledging that Donald Trump was trolling, but I was very ignorant to what he was trolling about. But now I get it. Autopen, bro. Wait, so the president has something that signs his signature. He wasn't even there when these pardons were taking place? He didn't even authorize them? There's so many questions we have, y'all. We got a lot. Let's try to get some of them answered.
President Trump says the pardons that former President Biden granted to members of the January 6th committee are invalid. Trump posting overnight that the pardons are, quote, void and vacant because they were allegedly signed with an Autopen. He claims Biden did not approve the pardons for former Congresswoman Liz Cheney and others and didn't even know about them. Trump says the committee members will now be subject to an investigation at the highest level. President Trump says the pardons that former President...
Yeah, you should be. This should be investigated at the highest level. I don't think that that's okay for somebody to sit there and be having a signature replicated with an auto pen over and over. That only lets us know that the conspiracy of Biden actually not being in office is true. Look, y'all ain't beating them allegations. Biden was obviously not the one running the show there. In addition to that, why do the J6 committee need pardons if they didn't do anything wrong? If they were just upholding the law, if they were just following the rule of law and making sure that they keep justice intact with integrity? Like, why would you need a pardon if you're making sure you're following all of the rules? I don't get it. Meltdown alert said things are about to get interesting. Autopen or no autopen, you cannot pardon somebody for something that never happened. A conviction without a conviction, there's no crime. No crime equals no pardon because there's nothing to pardon. 0 + 0 = 0. In other words, they got pardons because they committed crimes that we are about to find out. And, you know, Donald Trump decided to go ahead and get rid of them today. This is real live footage. Haters are going to say that this is a auto.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much.
One more time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, haters gonna hate though. You know, they're gonna be like, no, man, they look like Nancy Pelosi. You know what I'm saying? But the real question that we're gonna get to is, can he do this? Is he allowed to do this, Donald Trump? Before we do that, with Shipwreck, who I love as a content creator, let's check this out. See what this reporter asks. Are those Autopen pardons from the former president now null and void? Let's go ahead and get the direct response from the Presidente himself. Oh, okay. Hold on, y'all. I wasn't ready. My audio wasn't ready. Hold on. Trying to be all professional. I messed up. Let me go and do the transition again. Let's go ahead and hear from the president himself.
To follow up on the Biden Autopen, are those executive orders, those pardons from the former president now null and void?
Well, I think so. It's not my decision. That'll be up to a court. But I would say that they're null and void because I'm sure Biden didn't have any idea that it was taking place. And somebody was using an Autopen to sign off and to give pardons to, as an example, it's just one example, but the J6 Unselect Committee. Think of it, they gave pardons with an Autopen. I don't think Biden knew anything about it. And what they did is they deleted and destroyed all of the information that took them over a year to get. And the reason they did that is because the information was very incriminating about them. Like Nancy Pelosi, it was determined conclusively that she knew about 10,000 soldiers and turned it down. And if we used 500 soldiers, you would have had no problem, let alone 10,000. The young lady that said that I grabbed these powerful young Secret Service agents by the neck, okay? You know that was a big hoax, it was a lie. And she admitted it, and they deleted everything. So, you know, what they did is criminal.
It don't matter.
I think we're about to land, everybody.
Once the allegations get put out there, that's it. Don't nobody come and double back to see if if, somebody came back and apologized for it and nothing like that. No, the truth has come out about what took place on J6. And we do know Nancy Pelosi's role and how she could have helped tremendously to prevent what took place from happening. But of course, the Democrats completely look past that every single day that they get. Somebody says, I bet there's a lot of butts puckering at this news. I'm going to be sitting back watching gleefully as their corruption card house falls down around them. Yes, I mean, like Trump says, we're still going to have to sit back, wait for the court to do what they do. But if it's discovered upon an investigation that this was an Autopen, I personally think that they should be void. What about you? If it's not you signing it, bro, it's not you signing it. He doesn't have the power to rescind previous pardons, just ask Groke. Okay. There's absolutely no doubt in the whole of America that Joe Biden was not of sound mind when someone criminal whispered, hey, Joe, you mind if we use the old Autopen to make a few signatures? Yeah, I believe that's definitely true. Now, is the Autopen allow for pardons? No. It is not constitutionally allowed for presidential pardons. Why? Because the U.S. Constitution requires the president to be present. But he was in a different state on vacation.
Ready for this?
Yeah.
Is the Autopen allowed for pardons? No. It is not constitutionally allowed for presidential pardons. Why? Because the U.S. Constitution requires the president to be present. He was in...
I got to stop doing that. Like, I be knowing they going to say that, and then I end up saying the first line anyway. All right, so I know to get better at for myself.
The U.S. Constitution requires the president to be present. He was in a different state on vacation. Article 2, Section 2 grants the president the power to issue pardons, does not explicitly state the method. However, legal scholars past interpretations argue the pardons require the personal discretion and direct approval of the president, meaning Autopen is not fulfilled in this requirement.
Is this the one would be?
So Autopen can be used only if Biden was actually present and approved it while he was physically present. But because he wasn't there, that's the loophole that makes it void.
The drama about Joe Biden's authenticity as president of the United States is starting to heat up, specifically in the Autopen Gate department. If you don't know what I'm talking about, stick around and I'll explain it all in detail, but let's do the update. Last night at midnight, Trump tweeted out that the pardons that Sleepy Joe had gave to the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs and many others are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect because of the fact that they were done by an Autopen. In other words, Joe Biden did not sign them, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them. It is necessary that pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Joe Biden. He knew nothing about them, and the people that did may have committed a crime. Therefore, the Unselect Committee, who destroyed and deleted all the evidence obtained during their 2 years witch hunt of me and many other innocent people, should fully understand that they are subject to the investigation at the highest level. The fact is, they were probably responsible for the documents that were signed on their behalf without the knowledge or consent of the worst president in history of our country, crooked Joe Biden. The short of it is that the pardons that he signed, the blanket pardons, the preemptive pardons that he signed before he left office, he by Joe Biden, are null and void according to President Trump. So now that you're caught up, let's go through the whole thing. Discovered a while back through an oversight project, which is an arm of the Heritage Foundation, that Joe Biden had used an Autopen to sign the majority of his document. Joe Biden, quote, really anybody can use the Autopen device. And if you'd been paying attention at any length throughout Joe Biden's presidency, this really shouldn't come as any kind of shock. But that's for another video. Autopen thing really took hold with even Trump coming out and trolling about it on his Truth post. And it comes just about a week after Trump's lawyer, Lena Haba, went into what was known as like the press room or like a studio where Joe Biden held the majority of his press conferences, adding fuel to that fire of how
I don't know why I've random, but I'm starting to feel like Joe Biden ain't a real person.
legitimate or not legitimate Joe Biden's presidency actually was. So the question comes, can he actually do that? Can Trump actually invalidate the pardons that were given? And the answer is complicated. Probably not without going through the Supreme Court and going through all that and doing fact findings, and which could be a whole mess, really, for everybody that was a part of the Biden administration. But maybe that's the point. I don't know. Anytime something like this happens and I need to find out what's going to happen or get an idea of what's going to happen, I always try to go back into history. And so I went to Grok, which is my new favorite Google, and I had asked if anything anything like this had ever happened. If there had been a pardon in the history of histories that has ever been null and voided by the new president. And Grok's answer was basically no. There have been times where it's been contested. There has been times when it's gone to court. But the Supreme Court, at the end of the day, ruled that pardons from a presidential figure are upheld by the Constitution, except in the act of possible fraud, which is what this possibly could be if it does go to the Supreme Court, if it does get challenged and it does find out that there were other people that were using this Autopen. It's never happened in the history of ever. For this to be kind of a drawn out thing within the courts, just like everything that Trump's tried to do, from getting rid of violent gang members back to Venezuela, the court came back and determined that we had to bring them back, but I think it was too late. We couldn't bring them back. I don't know. It's kind of crazy that everything that he's done is being challenged in a court of law, but it is what it is. And I anticipate this to also be challenged in a court of law. See how it plays out. But honestly, again, if you're surprised by any of this, you haven't been paying attention throughout Biden's entire presidency, because this isn't a hard concept to comprehend. Hard concept to comprehend is then who was running it. Who was it? Was it the military industrial complex? Was it Trump? Was it Obama? Was it Jill? You know, who was it? Who was it? And your answer to that is going to depend on how deep in the rabbit holes you've gone and how open-minded you could possibly stay. Those ducks, look at them ducks. I had to move back upstairs too. So if you're coming to a live show, I'm hoping to have one or two this week. We moved back upstairs. We got the fish back and then we got the TV back. It's nice.
Shout out to Shipwreck, man. If y'all haven't followed her, make sure y'all do so. Enjoy her content a lot. And I appreciate her for providing that perspective and groping to find out the facts of the situation. So it sounds like it's complicated, as she said. It's a yes, it's a no. It's been challenged in the past, but it hasn't been successful. Because I guess corruption hasn't been identified in these previous cases. But in this particular case, I mean, from the outside looking in, it looked pretty solid. If the man is in a whole nother state, country, or wherever, he's just not in that room as his signature is being used, yeah, I feel like that definitely holds weight. I'm going to rule out the known crook himself, Hunter Biden. I'm sure he signed a couple for his own favors. The only guy who Joe trusted and who had access. Freaking lived at the White House. I have a theory that Shipwreck responded. I have a theory that Hunter sold his dad and Jill out to save his own skin when this inevitably fell out. He was a key part in getting all this exposure out. Doesn't make him innocent by any means. But if you look, I'm going to click on it. If you look at the extent of the blackmail that happens and then revisit Hunter's laptop story through the eyes, it makes sense. It was Hunter's name on all of those overseas. Yep, it was. Not Joe's. So if it ever came to light, Hunter was meant to be the fall guy. Could be Hunter. Courtney asks, Trump is starting to sow doubts into the entire Biden administration to allow people to pull back the curtain. The more they see that the entire last 4 years was a fraud, the more people will understand how long this has been going on and why he's doing what he's doing now. Unfortunately, people, I would love to agree with that theory, but you see what's going on with USAID and Doge. And I just go, nah. Obviously, legacy media is having a meltdown, claiming that, claiming Joe Biden's presidential pardons are void.
The president also claimed overnight that the pardons issued by former President Biden are void for the January 6th committee members, but the pardon power in the Constitution for the president is absolute. The president also claimed overnight that the pardons issued by former President Biden are void for the January 6th committee members, but the pardon power in the Constitution for the president is absolute.
It is. And by the way, there's no indication that President Biden signed these with an Autopen. That's what President Trump is arguing, that this were signed with an Autopen and therefore they're not valid. We don't know that they were signed with an Autopen, but even if they were, it's unclear that that would be an issue. In fact, President Bush back in 2005, the White House did a study on this and determined that even orders signed with an Autopen are valid orders. That proposition's never been tested in court. I guess the big question here, though, George, is
the same people that's against AI?
Does this imply that that President Trump wants to actually prosecute members of the January 6th committee?
Man, look, like they said, Autopen or not, how you gonna
it is.
pardon somebody for a crime they didn't commit? Speaker Johnson talks about the time when Joe Biden was unaware about the contents of an executive order that he had signed 3 weeks prior. Oh, theory's starting to get a little deeper.
So he called it. He's the commander-in-chief. So everybody leaves, and he and I are standing awkwardly in the middle of the Oval Office, right over the rug by that coffee table. And I said, Mr. President, thanks for the moments. This is very important. I got some big national security things I need to talk to you about that I've heard, and I think you know, and what do we do? But first, real quickly, Mr. President, can I ask you a question? I cannot answer this from my constituents in Louisiana. Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't understand, liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him, And he looks at me stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order 3 weeks ago. And he goes, no, I didn't do that. And he's arguing with me. I said, Mr. President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that. And he goes, oh, you talk about natural gas. Yes, sir. He said, no, you misunderstand. He said, what I did is I signed this thing we're gonna conduct a study on the effects of LNG. I said, no, you're not, sir. You paused it. I know. I have the export terminals in my state. I talked to those people this morning. This is doing massive damage to our economy, national security. It occurred to me, Barry, he was not lying to me. He genuinely did not know what he had signed. And I walked out of that meeting with fear and loathing because I thought, we're in serious trouble. Who is running the country? I don't know who put the paper in front of him, but he didn't know.
Now that right there is actually really scary. This man out here is the leader of the free world, can be the difference maker between certain laws and certain things getting passed, and he's unaware. Yeah, this thing is getting sticky, y'all. So, can Donald Trump issue, can he void out Biden's pardons that he issued out? It looks like what Shipwreck said. It's complicated. However, if we judge him by what Grote gave us, all the answers to that, and just common sense. That's all I can use. I can be a little ignorant in terms of knowing how the procedure works, but my common sense is just if you're not in the room and your signature is being used, because the problem with doing it over the phone or verifying it over email and stuff like that is or telling somebody that they're authorized to do it via those ways, it's you're not there to verify that what you approve to be signed with your signature is actually what's being signed. So that's what makes that, I don't know. These people deserve jail, though. I'm see you on the next video.